On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome two-time WIAA state champion Dean Vander Plas to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Vander Plas, a small-town star from Oostburg, Wisconsin, whose love for basketball started on a driveway hoop and carried him all the way to the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament with the University of Wisconsin Green Bay men's basketball team. It's a story of small-town pride, unforgettable state championships, and a journey that still inspires today. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are, whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast and get access to previous episodes on Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791. The podcast. Don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you like what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to share their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, mental illness, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Before I introduce our esteemed guest via cell phone, I'd like to highlight our website, surviveandthrive8791.com. You can see what we are doing and the events we are hosting. If you're a business or an advocate for mental health and recovery, we invite you to partner with us through sponsorship opportunities. Please contact us at surviveandthrive8791@gmail.com. This is our guest and episode intro. Man, according to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Dean Vander Plas?
It is always correct.
It is always correct. Okay. I'm a little concerned for you, Coach, but we can talk about that off air. Well, in my house, and this might change for you as well, in my house, I don't need Google, I don't need Siri, I don't need the internet. I've got my wife, Sarah, and she's always right.
That's an even more appropriate statement right there, Tim.
Wow, that was crickets for you on your end, but there was a little hesitation.
Mary is always right, and I learn a lot from Mary, so I'm sure you do the same.
Yes, exactly. Well, according to an AI artificial intelligence overview based on data regarding high school athletics, the percentage of basketball players who win a state championship in the U.S. each year is extremely low, likely well under 1%. With over 300 high school state basketball championships awarded annually in various classifications in the 50 states, the number is extremely small compared to the total population of players. Today's guest was part of that back then, very small percentage, not just once, but twice. Today, I welcome Dean Vander Plas to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Dean grew up in Oostburg, Wisconsin, and attended Oostburg High School and is a proud Flying Dutchman. After high school, Dean would take his talents to the University of Wisconsin Green Bay and accept a scholarship offer with the Phoenix men's basketball team. After his playing days were over, he has worn many hats in the professional world. Today, I'm so glad you could join us. Dean Vander Plas, what is up?
Hey, Tim. One of my favorite people, Mr. Decora. Definitely one of my favorite Dells High School graduates. So I'm excited to be here. Love your show and glad to be a guest.
Yeah, there's, two completely different dudes from completely different sides of the landscape of high school basketball. And, back in our day, there was no internet. We thrived on the newspapers for just kind of the local area, maybe just our own little town, but maybe, the Green Bay Press Gazette for you and the Wisconsin State Journal, and covered, local kids. But dude, I don't even, you probably didn't know who I was. I didn't know who you were until, we got to the state tournament or your junior year. And I'm like, yeah, this dude can play. And And then, we have been friends for, closing in on 40 years, which is crazy.
Long time, yeah. It's awesome. Parallel paths in a lot of our lives. So, it was, I was just thinking about the times in the field house, right? A lot of goosebump moments there for both of us. So, yeah.
Dude, we share those little Snapchats of when I'm walking in there or by there, and I always reference, Dean and I lit that place up a couple of nights, you in 86 and both of us in 87, and still kind of gives me the tingles. But anyway, we'll get moving here. Dude, it's been probably since the Ryder Cup at Whistling Straits that we've seen each other. What did you think of that whole thing kind of coming to your old neck of the woods, the Ryder Cup?
That was one electric experience, and I think you and I bumped into each other early in the day when everybody was running to get to their spots, and just the people chanting for Europe, and the obviously the Americans chanting for the Americans. That was one of the best golf events I've ever been at, just because you could see the golfers play with such little emotion all the time, and during that event it was just, those emotions were on display. And obviously with Steve Stricker being the captain, I think for all of us in Wisconsin, and being in Wisconsin, that was just an event. It was the ability to raise your emotional level just for the game of golf was at an all-time high there. Absolutely loved it.
Let me ask you this one, because other than the star power that was there, seeing the golfers and Stricker, and I've had an opportunity to get to meet him. I've worked with his two daughters. They went to Wanakee High School, where I taught for a bunch of years, so I've got to know him just a very little bit. He's a very private gentleman, so got to talk to him a couple of times. But other than the golfers, and then for me, the star power, seeing Dean Vander Plas, number one. The other star guy that I saw, and I guess they were all over the place, I just never ran into him, was Pat Connaughton from the Bucks at that time. Did you see or run into any stars of the celebrities?
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because Pat was actually one of the, I would say the suites that we had access to. He also, so like in between the morning and the afternoon, he was in there eating, and just happened to be right next to my son and I. So we didn't talk to him. We let him sit there and eat peacefully. But we bumped into him. I'm trying to think. There was people all over the place. Just, I would say, Wisconsin celebrities. There was a number of just dignitaries that you bumped into, and then all of the people that were there. It seemed to bump into friends all over the place. So it was an awesome event, and I love that Ryder Cup format. Just from I went over to Minnesota and watched another one, was in Chicago and watched when they were there, and definitely obviously a lot of people are there, and it's like the whole crowd is within 4 or 5 holes for most of the day. So pretty cool event.
Yeah, I didn't. Very much like you, I was there with my son and a couple other of his friends. We had gotten tickets, and I was just enjoying the day with them. So I wasn't really looking around as much as I should have. But it seemed like I was running into acquaintances and friends, and probably, believe it or not, more happy to see them than some of these celebrities. But it was very cool. How has 2026 been going for Dean Vander Plas?
Amazing. We're off to a great start professionally. So the work is going well. Also, my youngest is playing basketball yet, so he's in the Polish basketball league, and so Mary and I get to get up at different hours and watch European basketball, which has been it's a joy to watch him play, but also it's fun. Like, the Polish league is really, really good, and so they're off to I think they're in 4th place in their league, and the top 8 qualified for the playoffs, so they're in a pretty good spot. So 26 is off to a good start. Like you, I'm a grandpa, so always have the time with my 2 little granddaughters, and I've had an abundance of that at the beginning of the year. And I would say my dad told me that he bought a bumper sticker that said, if I'd have known being a grandpa was this much fun, I'd have done it first. And I think that's absolutely it. He told me that there's 2 words that you don't say as a grandpa that you said all the time as a parent. And as I think about it, it's true. He said, you never have to tell your grandkids to hurry up because you go at their pace. And I think you, watching your Snapchats and stuff with your grandkids, I think it's similar for you. You just sit where they are and just enjoy that time because it goes so fast. So 26 off to a great start, and a lot because of the family I get to be around. I know that's the same for you.
Yeah, exactly. And glad that we have been able to keep ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally strong through the years because, there's a lot more that we get to experience. And as long as we take care of ourselves, we can take care of, others and enjoy those things. But before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. And I know I don't have to ask this, but do you cook? And if so, genre, style, or cuisine?
Do I cook? I think you know that I love to make red meat on an open fire. So during COVID,
yes,
I was feeling like I think all of us were. Like, I'm a people person, and you couldn't have that. And so I always wanted to be. Like, I'm jealous of people who can cook. So I started following some people who are really good at open fire cooking, so uncontrolled heat. And I took that up, and a lot of times when I'm doing it, I'll share the process on Instagram or Snapchat, and but I love to do open fire. I've added pork and chicken and fish to the process now, so really enjoy that part of it. Other than that, I can probably do hamburgers and brats pretty well, but everything else, like my son Sam is the chef in our family. You
had me at red meat and grilled. I've seen your operation and how that works on Snapchat, and I think you got a hidden talent there. So with their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back. With locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb, Wisconsin, most communities in Dane County, which encompasses the Madison metropolitan area, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. Drum roll, please. I love this acoustically sound Menards plastic table. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
Oh, absolutely. The Sun Prairie location is one of my favorites, and a bunch of the people I worked with. And I know you had Brady Ewing on as one of your guests. And
yes, sir.
When I worked at Cottingham and Butler with Brady, there was a place a lot of us like to gather. So great food, great service. Yeah, just a really good place. Love Buck and Honey's. Top
notch. And if you ever get back there in the near future, I would suggest grabbing some pizza. And matter of fact, we're shooting in the early morning of the 12th of March. And I had dinner there last night, and I was telling my wife we should have gotten a picture because it's not very often that we get everybody together without the extended, grandkids and whatnot. It was just the 5 of us, and I had, of course, Bomber Special pizza. So get some pizza next time you go.
Okay. I'm a pizza fan, so that I'll take your indication there.
Matter of fact, next time you're in town, my treat. You give me a call, and we'll meet at Buck and Honey's in Sun Prairie or Monona, or wherever you're close to. So we'll do that. Consider it a date.
All right, sounds good, kid.
On the podcast, our guests follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like, Dean's history, what happened to get Dean on the podcast. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened and get into what it's like now. And we discuss Dean's 5 suggestions for thriving. So you grew up in Oostburg, Wisconsin, on the shores of Lake Michigan. Tell us what life was like in those early years growing up on the shores of Lake Michigan.
Yeah, Oostburg was I would say, a rural agricultural town. It's really changed now, with the interstates and stuff like that. I go back, it's significantly different in size and just even what the kids, have as availability. But, it was about 1,300 when I was growing up there.
Oh, boy. That's small.
Yeah. I was laughing, people always made fun of us because we had 5 churches in one bar, so we had our priorities straight. My dad was a stainless steel welder at Borden's in Plymouth, but my grandpa and grandma Huffman had a farm, and that was a family farm. So if you were a young kid, you spent a lot of time out there. In 1986, we won the state championship. My cousin Boyd Huffman, who was my teammate, was also someone I spent a lot of days with, baling hay and shoveling manure. So the school district was great. Had amazing teachers. Had an opportunity to grow not only in education, but the Flying Dutchmen have a commitment to their athletic programs, and so life was, I would say, slow, but it was definitely deliberate and purposeful. So I got a lucky start by growing up in Oostburg.
Yes, you did. Tell us about your family growing up. You kind of sprinkled in there your dad a little bit. Talk about your mom, and then you got 2 younger sisters. Spin some yarns about your family.
Yeah, so Dad John, Mom Lorraine, grew up on South 8th Street in Oostburg. Mom was I would say the leader of the family.
The leader of the pack.
Yeah, and took great care of me and my sisters. My sister Deanna happened to play basketball as well, won a state championship herself, and then went on to play at Old Dominion. And then my little sister Nell also played on a state championship team for the Lady Dutch, and then went on to start her basketball career at Northern Iowa. So basketball was a big thing in our family. My grandpa Elmer drove the bus when I was little for the high school basketball team. So
no kidding. Elmer, that's cool.
Grandma Ruth, we would, that was entertainment. You would go to the high school basketball games, and then every Friday night the gym was full somewhere, and thanks to my grandpa being a big time Oostburg High School basketball fan, we got to go to a lot of games from when I was little on. So and same with my sisters. So our family was around the farm and around Oostburg High School basketball. So a great start.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool to ride with Grandpa. Hey, can I ride the bus with you, Grandpa? And yeah, sure. And get to ride with the teams and see the coaches, and that coach that you would watch walk in the bus or get on the bus would be eventually your coach one day, and those players that you watch would eventually come back and we're watching you. You have a family of your own, and an amazing wife and some kiddos and some grandkids. Let's talk about your own family. Go ahead and spin some yarns about them.
Yeah, I met Mary in college at UW Green Bay at the Phoenix Sports Center. So in April, we will be married 33 years. We have 32, soon to be 32-year-old daughter, Taylor. She's an anesthesiologist in Grafton. We got a bonus son, Zach, her husband, and my 2 little granddaughters, Adrian 6 and Charlotte 3. And I always compare some of the stuff you're going through with yours when I get to see you feed them ice cream when Mom and Dad aren't there. So I'm doing some of that. And then my son Sam lives in Madison. He actually works at Katnick with me. He's engaged to Abby. They get married in August. So I get to go down your way a little bit, and I'll meet you at Buck and Honey's for that date night. Yep. And then my youngest, Ben, is going to be 28 in the fall, and he is playing professional basketball. Is in his 3rd year in Europe. Unbelievable family who, since I was, when we started coaching high school basketball, Mary and this, your wife and your kids sacrifice when you agree to be a varsity basketball coach. The time, that investment that goes into it, and sometimes some of the people around it aren't the most grateful for it. So it's tough it's probably tougher on your wife and your kids than it is on you. So really grateful they let me chase my dream in a lot of different ways and supported my dream. And I hope they feel like I've supported theirs and helped them chase theirs as well.
So you graduated from Oostburg High School in 1987, and that's why I have the 87 and 91 on the podcast numbers, is that was also the year that I graduated. And you're a proud Flying Dutchman. Because we're going to talk about the basketball stuff, what are some of your favorite non-athletic memories about high school, Oostburg High School?
As I think about it, you went to a school, obviously a little bigger than Oostburg, but when you go to a small school, you have to be involved in everything for you to have it. So I would say my non-basketball memories are a lot around, in the fall we had a school play, and in the spring we had a school musical, and I participated in both of those. So that was one of the things that I enjoyed, was the theatrical part of it. We had a really good drama coach, also happened to be the speech and communications teacher at the high school. But we would go to practice, leave practice, and then and go to the play practice for a couple hours, or the musical practice for a couple hours. So really enjoyed that. I also enjoyed being a part of the music that was going on at Oostburg. I love music, but I think both my choir director and my band director, who were married, Mr. and Mrs. Bratz, would tell you that I was good at listening to things. I probably wasn't good at singing them or playing them, but boy, did I love that. I absolutely love being part of the drama and music stuff that was going on. And you met different people by doing that. There was just different people that were involved in those things. So I think it spread the people that you got to know and to learn from. But really enjoyed that part of high school from my freshman year on.
After high school, you would take your talents to the University of Wisconsin Green Bay, so just up the road a little bit, and join the Phoenix men's basketball team. Did you have any suitors? Were there any other people vying for Dean Vander Plas?
I had a lot of other scholarship offers, but not in basketball. Basketball is my true love, and we'll talk about Coach Moriarty probably later, but I absolutely just loved being around the game of basketball, because I thought basketball was it was always moving, but I was a much better football player, and you know how I'm built. I'm built more like a football player. Coach Bennett, my position in UW Green Bay was blocker, so I probably fit that football role, but I had Penn State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Northwestern on football, and no other basketball offers. But I absolutely loved basketball. Got the scholarship offer from Coach Bennett after my senior year. Basketball was done. His dad, John, went down because Clintonville was always at the state championship, so John would go, and he saw me play the Friday night and told his son that, hey, you should look at this kid. And so I got a scholarship offer from Coach Bennett, and in Reedsville High School's principal office. After the season was done, we're playing in one of those postseason tournaments, and went on to play there. The only other basketball opportunities I had really were UW Stevens Point. Jay Ack was the head coach there. He told me I could play football and basketball there if I wanted to, but that was the other option that I had in basketball.
Yeah, that's crazy how you look at the recruiting landscape now, and kids are getting offered in 8th grade, and if it was like this back then, you would have probably been getting offers after your sophomore year, when you could start taking the phone calls and all of that. I mean, you're well versed on the recruiting and that whole process now, but yeah, I would think that with how the University of Wisconsin is now, or 5-10 years ago, you would have probably been a Badger football player, hands down. But in 1984, 85, 86, Wisconsin athletics, anything was not good, especially football. And then I could see not wanting to take your talents to Penn State or Nebraska. I mean, those places are far, far away. You enjoyed an amazing high school and college career, which we'll talk about the high school, and that's why you're here today. 2 state championships in high school and a trip to the NCAA tournament. Tell our listeners where it all started. Did you come out of the womb with a ball in your hand, or how did that get started?
I look back at where I really got passionate about it. And in 4th grade, we got a chance to play for Oostburg in the Sheboygan County Y League, and one of the greatest coaches I've ever had the pleasure of being around, Tom DeSatel at Sheboygan North, had created this traveling Y League. And in 4th grade, you could go represent your town and go play in Sheboygan Falls and all of the Sheboygan schools, Christian, Lutheran, had teams in there. Cedar Grove, our rival, had a team in there, Kohler. So I got to, every Saturday, you got to either have a home game or you had an away game. And it was fun. You go to the game on Friday night to watch your high school play, and then you got to go be them on Saturday. I just really loved the game, fell in love with it. My mom and dad I was one of the only kids who had a basketball hoop at home. So my dad had put one on our garage, and the neighborhood kids would all show up there. I had some high school neighbors that were really, really good. Brian Ninice, who ended up playing at Marquette, and then Dave Vander Plas, who played at UW Eau Claire for just a legendary college coach. They were my neighbors, and my driveway had a little bit of tilt to it, so and it faced the south, so it would always be dry. Mm-hmm. So my dad's deal was, if you come to shoot hoop there, you just got to let Dean play. And so ever since I was little, I would be out on that court just shooting, and the Y League to be able to go play and show other people, and we took great pride representing Oostburg with our group, and they ended up being pretty good. But that's where it really started. And then my mom and dad allowed me to go to Whiz Kids basketball camp. That was Tom's camp in Sheboygan. I'd go to the advanced camp and the defensive camp, and my mom and dad would work hard to be able to pay for that for me. So in the summer, I'd get a little bit more basketball in. And, I think about the influence that Tom was on the state of Wisconsin. And then I had that from fourth grade on. So that's where it really started. And I just always loved the game. I just, the speed of it, the transition in it. And I feel it, now as an older adult, I just feel like it's the game of life. You can't sit and wallow. You got to get up and get to the other end and keep going. So I like the perseverance in it. But probably started in fourth grade at Whiz Kids in Sheboygan County Y League.
Movement is medicine, and we didn't even know it, and we were getting a lot of medicine back then and that good basketball stuff. So what's made the college experience in playing Division I basketball worthwhile? And then we're going to get into a little bit of something really cool, and I'll share my experience with an NCAA tournament appearance. So what was so cool about that Division I college experience?
A little bit was, the chip on your shoulder that you had coming from a small town, and could you compete at that level? And Coach Bennett was so good, right? Like nobody else saw talent to play at the Division I level in me, but somehow Coach did. And just the maturation from freshman year to senior year. I got to guard Eldon Campbell, Dale Davis, Antonio Davis. Like you think about, then obviously we played against Steve Smith and Matt Stinginga and Poplowski, just names that played professionally forever, and you got to play against them. So I think that experience was it, but also, and knowing, watching you go back to Platteville and, the pictures and stuff that you post with, your brothers that you played with from different mothers. For me, that network of friends that I have today, and I've had the fortune of my son playing for Tony for 1 year too. So that just, all of that stuff, I'd say the competition, the level of it, the way that you had to train, all that stuff was great, but also just the brotherhood you have with the people that you went through that with. Because you know it. You played at the highest level and won national championships. You got to work. And it's not easy, but learning that was just, and Coach Bennett was amazing to expect what he expected out of me that I didn't even expect out of myself. So I got some amazing memories. And I watched, someone sent me the 1991 tournament game. I had never watched it because I didn't know where to find it, and they sent it to me digitized. So I got to see it for the first time about a year ago. And my one son said, "Dad, did Coach Bennett let you dribble?" And so it was an unbelievable experience. And I think the growth that you get by competing at whatever level when you go to college it just helps you for your future. So a lot of great memories and amazing teammates and amazing coaches, friends to this day.
I think what we're going to do is, and we've talked about this with several other guests, that you've got so many layers. There's so many layers to Dean Vander Plas, from the professional and the basketball and fatherhood and all that good stuff. But I think I want to have you come back on because I think one of the things that happened for me was I achieved that lifelong goal of winning a state championship, and then went to college. I didn't refocus. I didn't have the goal. My goal was never to be a college basketball player until probably sometime in high school, what's going to happen afterward. And you definitely probably refocused your goals from high school. You got that done twice, championship, and then you refocused. I didn't have that makeup coming through, or yet again had a coach who got more out of you than you thought you could. But I do want to talk about this little shared experience. So UW-Platteville was in the Final Four in Springfield, Ohio, and during, the games were at night, and then during the day, we were all glued, the Pioneers were all glued, at least the Wisconsin guys were, to the TV because UWGB was in the NCAA Big Dance Tournament. Let's talk about that experience because it was fun for us. I'm like, that dude right there, that guy I played with in, all-star game and different things. But go ahead and talk about that for a second.
Yeah, we had the conference tournament at home that year. Our AD had, and that's where, you sort of made a bid to get it. And, Green Bay didn't have the greatest budget in the world, but the AD got the tournament at the Brown County Arena. We affectionately called it the Dick Dome. So we had it there, and that year Northern Illinois and Northern Iowa were really good as well, and we ended up winning the conference tournament at home, and just all 6,000 people on the court with you afterwards. And so, but then you got to go get ready, right? And Coach Bennett wasn't about just making it. He wanted to. We were a 12 seed against the 5 in the West region, so we went out to Tucson, Arizona, played at the McHale Center, and we were in a ball game from beginning to end. And then the guy who's in the Basketball Hall of Fame with your college coach, Steve Smith, had a shot at the buzzer to beat us. But we were there the whole way, led for, I think it was something like 30 minutes of that game. And it was just, when we got in there, you had your Green Bay fans and you had your Michigan State fans, but we were Cinderella, and, all 20,000 people that weren't Michigan State fans by the end of that game were cheering for us. So an amazing memory, painful finish, but the memory is amazing to be able to do that. We were the first GB Division I team to make the NCAA tournament. So I was the only senior on that team. Coach had a pretty good group coming back. And they did some pretty cool stuff, a couple of years later. One, knocked out California with Jason Kidd. So I feel like we started something pretty special at GB, but that thing was amazing, Tim. It was that whole arena, just sort of a Hoosiers sort of feeling. So it was fun.
There had to be a lot of green in there because Michigan State's green, GB's green, and it was definitely very cool to watch. And I forgot about that a couple years later. But like I always say, if 91 doesn't happen, maybe they don't beat Cal a couple years later, but definitely because of the leadership and the winning qualities and the person you are, I think you helped lay the foundation for what has happened up at GB over the course of time. And very, very cool story. In 1986, you would win the West Bend sectional final and advance to the WIAA State Boys Basketball Tournament on the campus of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. You would take down Whitehall in 1986 and Elk Mound in 1987 to win back-to-back state championships. And we're going to talk about some of that shortly, but because our listeners want to hear the rest of your story and what brought you to the podcast, I need to talk about the sponsor one more time. Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. Oostburg native Dean Vander Plas joins us today in the Buck and Honey's remote studios via cell phone from his compound in Eagle River, Wisconsin, on the shores of Catfish Lake. Today, Dean and I are going to walk down memory lane and discuss what what it's like to advance to the state tournament and then eventually take home the gold ball. Please join us. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's Remote Studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. The podcast is where we feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Today, I'm glad to be joined in the Buck and Honey's remote studios via cell phone by Oostburg native and former UWGB Phoenix basketball player Dean Vander Plas. He's here to share his story and the experiences that a lot of boys and girls basketball players don't get to experience. And then we're going to share kind of what it's like getting to the state tournament and then ultimately winning. So let's talk briefly about the regular seasons in 1986, which would lead to your first state title, and then in 1987, your second. What are conference titles, conference championships? Talk about your conference real quick.
Yeah, so we were in the Central Lakeshore, which was like Kohler, Elkhart Lake, Cedar Grove, Ozaki, that group. Big basketball conference, obviously Kohler, the Wolf fame. Like in 1980, like the late 70s, early 80s, just big time basketball conference, right? Oostburg was at the state tournament in 77, lost to Marathon in the state championship. Then the Wolf boys had their run, and then it was back to Oostburg. And my sophomore year, we had lost in the sectional semifinal in West Bend at Oakfield, and had a lot of our team coming back. And obviously the goal then is to win a conference championship, and had a great conference run. Cedar Grove was probably the next best team in our league my junior and senior year. Arch rival just 5 miles down the road. We took some early lumps. Coach Moriarty always had a really tough non-conference schedule. We played Chilton that year, who won Class B. We had played Brown Deer. We'd actually beat Brown Deer at Brown Deer. So great. He always made sure we were playing our best basketball by the end of the year, and I think that was one of his greatest strengths, that ability to have us do that. So, and then had a fun ride through regionals and sectionals, and playing at West Bend, and got it done. But got the conference championship with about 2 games to play, and then had a nice little run to state.
Yeah, we could talk about load management, and you got it wrapped up 2 games, so we're going to sit the starters. But back then, there was no load management, there was no sitting. We got this thing. Yeah, Coach Moriarty and his staff wanted to get you guys ready for the tournament, because you said your sophomore year, you got a little taste of what it's like to get to the sectionals, that extra week of practice and that build up and the big crowds and whatnot. And then in 86, you would capture the West Bend sectional, and then you would come back again and do that in 87. How did the tournament leading up to the state, because we'll get to that here in a little bit, but how was that? Were they different compared to that first one and then the second one?
Yeah, I think the first one is so novel. We had won a regional championship before. Then you go and win your sectional semifinal game, and then they were back to back. You'd play on Friday night, and then go home, come back Saturday, and you were getting ready to go. And I remember after we won on Saturday night, I thought everybody that lived in Oostburg was in the gym because it was amazing. And then we came home, and the firemen, the fire trucks, there was an impromptu parade, and it looked like the population had tripled, but they were all there, and it was a hero's welcome, and you realized how big a deal it was to people that were living there with you. So that was really cool. It was novel. Never had experienced it. Then you go back your senior year. Not that everybody's expecting it, but they're expecting it, right? And it just has a different feel to it. In my senior year, Pat Murphy at Mineral Point, almost by himself, knocked us out at the sectional final. We won that game 95-94 in regulation. And our senior year, no three-point line. So unbelievable high school basketball game that year. A little bit, your shoulders were a little bit heavier because you knew what it was. You knew what you were missing out on if you didn't make it. So I'd say that second year was just a hair bit different that way. But Oostburg was a cool place to play high school basketball because the whole town was in it. So that was cool.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up with Pat Murphy. He's been a lifelong friend and a teammate down at Platteville. And I was going to bring it up whether you did or not, so I'm glad you did. The fact that I've shared this story with other folks as well is I saw the score like the next day, 95-94 in regulation. Not triple, not double overtime, not single overtime, but I mean, it was just run and gun. And then unfortunately, I think Murph overshadowed the two of you guys because he had like 48 or 49 points. He was unconscious. And then he missed a bunch of free throws down the stretch that eventually would lead to you guys winning the game. Just talk about that a little bit. They had 28 points in the second quarter, and he had all 28. And luckily, Coach Bennett wasn't watching that game because I was guarding him. I was a good luck charm for him in that second quarter. But then in the fourth quarter, we were down 20 at the start of the fourth. Oh, boy, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yep, I had 21 in the fourth, and I think Travis had like 17 or 18. I think we scored 38 points in the fourth quarter. But, yeah, and then it was a double bonus, right? When you got to the single bonus, you always had to make the front end, and he missed a couple on the front end, and we turned them into, old-fashioned three-point plays on the other end, and you could just see the momentum change in there. But, yeah, Pat had an unbelievable game that he could, his mid-range game and was as good as there was in the state. And, now nobody shoots a 15 to 17-footer anymore, but he had it going, and it was an unbelievable high school game. Our fans at the beginning of the fourth quarter stood up and chanted, "Yes, we can," the whole fourth quarter.
They willed you to the sectional championship, and I think all of us, maybe we should all get together and see if we can dig that bad boy up and get that digitized, because, that would have to be a heck of a game, too. And I should say this, that I have seen parts of that game with Murph just because I'm like, oh, I need to see that track meet and watch you guys go up and down, and it had to be cool to be part of, and certainly winning. So let's keep rolling forward here. You would advance to the 1986 and 1987 state tournament, and that was held at the University of Wisconsin Fieldhouse, where the Badger women's volleyball team plays. There was no Kohl Center back then. But what do you remember about stepping into the Fieldhouse for the first time, and then kind of a two-part question, and then for the game? So let's talk about that first time you guys walk in to the Fieldhouse. Yeah,
when you got, and Hoosiers was the movie that was going on when you and I were doing this. Mm-hmm. It was that Ollie experience where you're looking at the thing and it's big and the goosebumps are just all over your body, and you realize the hoop's 10 feet, the free throw line's 15 feet, but it is just I would say the goosebumps, the magnitude of it hits you when you walk in for that shoot around, right? You're like, wow, we get to do this. And, then Coach Moretti had good prep for us on it, and it takes some of that jitters out. And then it was Class C, Class B, Class A, right? And Class C, when we go out there, you're playing on Friday morning. Like, it's a 9:30 start. Like, you don't play any other games at 9:30 a.m.
No, you don't.
The biggest one of your life, you're going to play at 9:30 in the morning, and you run out of the tunnel from the locker room into that place, and the old field house, like, everybody was on top of you, and that noise it was loud. And so that feeling when you ran out was, I got goosebumps right now, Tim, thinking about that. Like, that was an amazing experience for 15 of us, Flying Dutchmen, to run out and your town to greet you like that in a place that you think is pretty dang cool, right? Because you watch it, you watch the Badgers on TV, all of the stuff that happened at that field house, and you get to play there. Yeah, pretty emotional.
I was going to mention this too. It's a shame that the WIA doesn't do this anymore. But back when, in 86 when you went, and then in 87 when both you and I were there, separate, not divisions, but separate classes. We were there in B, you guys were there in C. But they brought everybody in the day before, and so on Wednesday, and we got our half an hour. And like you said, it was so awesome. And it felt like the rims were about 9'6". You had a little extra spring in your step, and you were on that bouncy floor that, it was a kind of a raised floor, a couple inches, just because it was on concrete. But you got to run out there, and then, at least for us, when we were done, there were some because we were one of the local teams. The local newspaper people were there, and we had to do like a media, semi sort of media day. But it's a shame that they don't get to do that. And you not only have experienced this from the player standpoint, but you also experienced it from the coaching standpoint. It's just something that those kids don't get an opportunity to experience.
Yeah, and the banquet we had, like, they brought us all together, all of us in that room at the park. You get to see, we get to see each other, and that was cool. The way that they did it, it was just a first-class experience. And, it was the guy who had done the Denny Moyer, who was the Sheboygan Press sports editor, interviewed me when I was a player. And then when my first team made it to state 2003, he was still covering sports for the Sheboygan Press, and he asked me which one was better, as a player or as a coach. It made me think a little bit. I said, you know what? As a player, when I walked out there, I saw it through my eyes. The goosebumps were there. But as a coach, I got to walk behind 15 sets of eyes, and I got to feel it amplified. And I didn't think I'd ever think about it that way. But as the coach, it was so much. I got to experience it through 15 different sets of eyes. So I do love the way they did it for you and I. I wish the WIA would, I realize finance and budget and all that stuff, but they made it an amazing week. And, a lot of us got to meet each other. They probably do that at AAU now and stuff like that. But I remember that Wednesday night banquet was, I'd get your sport coat and bring it, and some of us had to borrow it from our pops, and away we went. But that was, you're absolutely right, that little media session, staying in Madison and being treated like royalty was pretty cool.
Yeah, you brought that. I forgot about that little banquet, and then they also had state tournament programs. I think for every one of the players got a program, and I had been going to the state tournament as a fan because the Wisconsin Dells High School made it in '78, and then that's where I got my love for. I want to be on TV. I want to play there, and here we go, 8-9 years later. And I had been looking at the program every year after '78, and then to finally in 1987, for you in '86, you open up the program, and there we are. There's our name. There's our, our points per game and height, and I don't even know, weight was probably in there too. But there was our picture, and like you said a little bit ago, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that whole thing. All right, since the show has a mental health component to it, there had to be some anxiousness that second year, and you talked a little bit about it, that 86 was cool because that was the first time you get to experience it, and then 87 is supposed to happen again because of who you had coming back. Let's talk about how you handled that, and specifically, like, what was happening? What were you going through 1987? Talk about that second trip.
Yeah, since you and I talked about doing this, I've been thinking about it a bunch, and there was some stress to it, and I don't know that we thought about it as stress. It was just expectation, right? The weight of expectation that was there, and I just loved the games so much. Like the gym was my safe place, and one of the things Coach Moriarty did is I wanted to get better, and he would open up the gym in the morning for me to come get shots before school, and that really helped that year because I talked to Coach a little bit, and he was thoughtful about what we were doing, about our practices, about who we were playing, and there was just a little bit of it's almost like that pregame prep session that I got. And then also, I lost my grandpa when I was in 8th grade, and he was a very instrumental part of, I think, who I am still today. But my grandma was as well. My grandma Ruth would always tell me, Dean, today is a great day to have a great day. It's the only one you got, so let's make it great. And I always thought about games, and I think about it yet as a professional today, and what we do, and that cherish game day, and just be the best version of yourself you can be that day. So I think, just think about the way my grandma was all the way till I, left to go to Green Bay. And what she did for me is, I think she lessened that load of expectation, because, today was just a day that we should take advantage of, and let's be happy. So I really think about her as an unbelievable support during that. And I had a cousin on that team as well. So, she had 2 grandsons on the state championship team in 86 and 2 again in 87. I'm sure she was feeling it, but she didn't make me feel like she was feeling it. And that was a pretty safe place to be.
I think we got a T-shirt idea, and I'm going to have you go back and say that quote from your grandma, because it speaks powerfully to me in that, when my going through my mental health issues over the course of my life and thinking about anxiety, I was always thinking about the future and catastrophizing and looking at the past, and that filled me with some anxiety. And that's such a, I don't know how many words it is, but such a powerful statement. I'm going to have you repeat that because, it's powerful.
She said, today is a great day to have a great day. And it's rooted in her favorite verse. And there's a verse in the Bible. My grandmother was unbelievably faithful. It said, this is the day the Lord has made. You're to be glad and rejoice in it. And she said, Dean, that's a command. And it doesn't say, to be fun. It rejoice and be glad. And you can be glad in struggle. You can be glad in triumph. But she would say, today is a great day to have a great day. And just an unbelievable, and I'm 56 going on 57 years old, and I think about that thing every single morning. And what a blessing it was to have the grandma I did, because I think it helps you, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, but to be where your feet are. And I think a lot of people miss that. And thanks to my grandma, I didn't.
Yeah, and it's the only day you truthfully got, because you don't have tomorrow and you don't have yesterday. Yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery. You got today, and let's get the job done. And you did that on a couple of March Saturdays in 86 and 87, and I also got a chance to do that. So was it you were happy in 86, you won that first day title. Did you get to experience some happiness, or was it relief when you guys won it? Because we had to wait for you guys to get on the court. I think that went single, or was it double or single overtime, you and Elk Mound?
No, it was regulation, but it was close the whole way. I think the biggest lead Elk Mound had on us was 6, and I think the biggest lead we had on them was like 4 or 5. Ended up winning, I think, by 3. I hit a couple free throws right at but it was everybody using their timeouts down the stretch. So it was a high-scoring game for high school at that point. But yeah, it definitely wasn't a relief. There was joy. Like it was, and a little bit of sadness because, that old cliche is like, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. That day was that quote for me because I loved high school basketball. only 3 teams at that time get to finish with a win. And you and I got to do that. But we also were finished, right? Like high school basketball was precious to me. So I think in that moment, there was a ton of joy. It was an unbelievable experience for us. I think before, the semifinal game, there was more, like after we won that game, it was more relief. But that game against the Mounders was unbelievable, and there was definitely joy to be experienced by getting it done with your buddies.
I'm going to paint some pictures here for you a little bit. So we were in the locker room waiting for that track meet to get over, and you and Travis you both were in the 30s. I think you had 32 and he had 31 or somewhere in there, and it was just back and forth. And I didn't see this until later, and then I kind of think about it now, is that when I watched the replay of our state championship, on the front of one of the cassettes is the fourth quarter, because your game went so long. It's they had to set the timer because everybody was leaving from the Dells, so they had to set the timer, and they caught the fourth quarter of that game. And there's a couple things I can remember about watching that for the first time, and then afterward is your slam dunk is on one of the highlights, and then the Bo Dean song is playing in the background of you going and ramming one of those down. And then your last free throw of your last points of your high school career, I remember, is that you were at the free throw line and you snap your wrist and follow through, and I believe it went in, and you kept your hand up there the whole time, and they threw it in, and you're standing there, and then you put both hands up. And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about that moment, because it was so cool to see you do it. And then then we would eventually become friends, and it made it, I appreciated it a lot more, because I know that guy, I know that dude. And then I also know what that feeling is like, putting those hands up at the very end.
Yeah, same, because after our game was done, like the B and C, where you bought a ticket for B and C, so as a participant in C, you go shower, you do all your media stuff, and we came out and we watched the second half of you guys getting it done. So yeah, same thing, and you were going off, and it's sort of that State Journal always had who the leading scorers were and the pictures and stuff like that,
and the dunk counts, and the slam dunk counts.
Yeah. Wasn't too many slam dunks in the Class C counter, so that was a big deal. I remember when I got that breakaway, Coach Moriarty's hollering, "Lay it in," because there's no chance.
no way, because we were playing on those 9'6" rims, remember? And we had a little step in our.
Yep, and non-breakaways. Like that was the thing. Those things were not breakaways. That was where you had to go get that one. So yeah, that was fun. Yeah,
your dunk number compared to our man Trevor Powell, I think he had like 6 or 8 dunks for the tournament. Although they got an extra game, they had 3 games instead of our 2. But either way, it was punctuation to 2 back-to-back state championships, and so cool to again having gotten to know you over the years, and we get a chance to share our experiences. And I hope we get a pile of people listening, because it'll take some people down memory lane from the Dells and Oostburg and the surrounding areas. And if anybody hasn't gone to the state tournament, we're sharing our experiences today. So afterwards, we'll kind of fast forward here. We win the state championship. You guys stay there. We drive home. It's like the movie Field of Dreams. There's lights that lit about 5 or 6 miles before we got to the high school through town and the Dells. We go back the next day for the Governor Mansion breakfast that they had the state champions come to. But let's talk about your ride back into Oostburg and anybody winning a state championship. Here's what it was like in Oostburg. Walk us through that.
So we had to all get dressed up on Sunday morning to go to have pancakes at the Governor. Got to do that with you,
Governor Thompson. Shout out Governor Thompson.
And then we got on the bus and we got to the edge of the town. So we coming home, get to the edge of town. They made us get out of the bus. They had all fire engines shined up. It was a beautiful spring day. So we're in our sport coats and ties, and all of us get on a fire engine, and Coach Moriarty gave me the gold ball to bring up. So Travis and I were on one of the first fire engines to go through town, and him and I are taking turns, hoisting that thing, and then they had a reception for us in the gym, and the gym was packed, and on one scoreboard they had the score of the semifinal game, and on one scoreboard they had the score of the championship game. They had a big stage set up for us, and every player got to tell the community how thankful they were for them. A little emotional, and the experience. And I remember it was just, church was a big deal in Oostburg. And this was a Sunday afternoon, and the place was just absolutely packed, and they gave us a hero's welcome. And I can still visualize it today, walking through that tunnel of people, bringing the gold ball to the front stage, and then Coach Moriarty introducing each of us and just saying, I want you guys to tell these people how thankful you are for them. And that was a good exclamation point on my career.
I'm getting the feel goods with you right now because we had the same thing, except we were able to do it on Saturday, and then of course we had to go back down there the next day because we were so close. But kind of the interesting thing now is that the bus probably had to pull over somewhere in like Cedar Grove, somewhere that's 5 minutes from town. And hey, can I use your payphone? I was supposed to call the fire department when we're coming into town. Versus now we're sending text messages. Yeah, we're like 30 seconds out, and then we get off the bus and yeah, compared to now, but it's still relevant now because a lot of the teams that are going to win it in girls this weekend and next weekend for the boys here in Wisconsin, some of those girls and boys are going to have those same experiences, and it's life-changing. It was life-changing for me, and it probably was the same way for you, in that we started chasing being the best at whatever we decided to get into. Whether it was college basketball, being a parent, life, professionally, coaching, we just chase being the best. So speaking of chasing being the best, what is Dean Vander Plas doing now? Tell our listeners that may have lost track of you, what you're doing or what you've been doing.
I've been in the insurance business now for 35 years. I'm the chief growth officer for Kapnick Insurance. It's a family-owned company, and I am one of the owners in the company. We have about 225 employees, and my goal is to leave it better than I found it, right? So that's what I'm doing right now, is pouring back into people in our business. I think the insurance business is a really great career, and so I'm helping people get into the business. And as a chief growth officer, I spend my days helping them grow personally, professionally, and then also obviously I'm trying to help our business grow and prosper. So that's what I'm doing. I did coach high school basketball for 23 years. I retired from that in 17 when my youngest went on to play college. So we could follow him around and do a little, and be a dad for once. You know that when you coach and you're coaching your kids, it's not the same as being able to just be their dad and be in the stands. So got to experience that. But that's what I've been doing. I love it. I'm doing a little bit of speaking right now. I've been successful at building high growth cultures. And so people have been asking me to come help them with some of their teams. So I've been enjoying that on the side. But that's what Dean's up to.
This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, and pencils and jot some things down. Here are Dean Vander Plas's 5 suggestions that have allowed him to survive and thrive in life, and got a kickstart with winning 2 state championships. Here's what you shared. And I'm going to toss these in softball style. Can you hit a softball, Dean?
I can hit a softball.
I bet you can hit that thing a mile. You bat from the left-hand side?
I bat from the left-hand side. You got it.
Yeah, I bet you. I'd hate to be a first baseman. When Dean Vander Plas is coming up, get me a helmet and face mask, and I'll get out there. But yeah, I bet you can whack that thing. So here's what you shared, and I'm going to have you hit these in about 60 seconds or less. And here's what you shared. So number 1, be where your feet are. Go ahead and hit that.
Be present. When you're present, you're better. So be where your feet are.
When I think about that, I also think about that comment your grandma had. It's really it's very simple and yet profound. Number 2, be intentional. Go ahead and hit that.
I think, your words and your actions truly matter. And I think pick them wisely. I think where wisdom comes from is being intentional. And then I also think they're an investment. They're an investment in other people. And I think when you think about that, like you can be a day maker instead of a day breaker. So be intentional.
Love it. Number 3, be curious. Go ahead and hit that.
The ability to stay humble and hungry. And I think about, when you and I were growing up, we read the book Curious George, right? His curiosity got him in trouble, but at the end of it, he always learned something from it. Great little books for us when we were kids. But to me, it's always been, can I stay thirsty to learn? That also means I meet people better. So by being curious, instead of coming into it with an opinion or a judgment, I think you still are able to grow. And I think if you're growing, you're living. So be curious.
Mm-hmm. And along those lines, I'm a lifelong learner and listening to a lot of books, and being curious and how to make myself better so that I can share that with the rest of the world. And I think you're probably the same exact way. Number 4, extend grace. Go ahead and hit that.
When I was a kid, I did something that I shouldn't have done. And I told you before, my grandpa Elmer was a very important part of my life. And grace, the definition is undeserved love or favor. And when you're on the receiving end of undeserved love or favor, it makes a deposit that you want to repay. And so I always think about, where can I extend grace in my life? Where can I meet somebody where they're expecting this and they get that? And those moments in your life where you're truly able to extend grace or be extended grace are life-changing. So I think if people are thoughtful about that, my grandpa taught me a lot about leadership, and that extending grace, where he gave me undeserved love or favor in a situation I didn't deserve it, has impacted me for 50 consecutive years.
It's good stuff, and I'm looking forward to your response to this, because I've heard this as well, and I abide by this now. It's number 5, be a get to, not a have to person. Go ahead and hit that.
A lot of people say, I have to go to work today, I have to do this today, I have to do that. And that mentality has just it's a withdrawal mentality. It's a negative mentality. It's a land of scarcity mentality. And when you just change a little bit of your verbiage to yourself and say, I get to go to work today. I get to spend 90 minutes with Tim today. Like, just the change in that is unbelievable for the way you'll address today. And so one of the things I think, and that's my grandma and me, is, today's a great day to have a great day. I get to do that today. And when you make that choice to get to, man, it just changes a lot of your perspective. And I think, they say perception is reality. So to me, this is a way that you can help yourself just positively impact the way the day is going to happen for you, by being a get to, not a have to.
Yeah, I really love that. And I know we talked about this off air. I got on a little late just because I forgot what we had to do this morning, and I'm glad you adjusted your schedule. My aunt who took me in as a sophomore, and I stayed, instead of 2 weeks, it was 2 years, took me in. Mm-hmm. And we have her funeral today. She passed away a couple of days ago. And this is such a great coping skill that for 75 to 90 minutes, I can get into a coping strategy of talking and going down memory lane with a, very, very good, close, dear friend of mine. And I can think about something else that can take my mind off of grieving and thinking about her. And I'll have time to do that later today, but you got me out of that feeling of not feeling so good today when I woke up. But now I've had some, great memories, and you and I had a chance to share those individually and together. And she was a big part of that state championship. If she doesn't take me, her and my uncle don't take me in, I don't know what happens to me, but they did. And the rest is history.
That's Grace. Your aunt is a special person to me because she built you to be who you are today. She made deposits that I get to be the benefactor of. So, I told you before, my sympathies to you, but you get to celebrate her because she's part of your DNA, brother.
Get to celebrate, not have to celebrate. We get to. Amazing. What an episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your story and how you managed to win back-to-back state titles, play college basketball, and have an extremely successful professional career, do some coaching as well, and be a proud and successful father and grandfather now is just amazing stuff. Inspiring as well, the experiences you have had, and I've got to be a part of that as well. And I'm so glad that we still have this friendship for all of these years. Our call to action, Dean Vander Plas has shared his story and how he used basketball to shape his life. He has had such a great professional career and family life and playing career as well. Here are Dean Vander Plas's 5 suggestions that helped him survive and thrive. Number 1, be where your feet are. Number 2, be intentional. Number 3, be curious. Number 4, extend grace. And number 5, be a get to, not a have to person. Final thoughts as we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Are there any final thoughts? Dean Vander Plas.
Yeah, Tim, I've been listening to your podcast and, obviously your social media. I love what you're doing to invest in others and to make the world a better place. My goal in my life has been to leave it better than I found it. And brother, you do that on a daily basis with what you're doing. So I appreciate you and keep doing what you're doing. You make the world a better place.
That means a tremendous amount because of who you are, and certainly a lot of people on the eastern side of the state know who you are, kind of a legend in the Green Bay area and then down in Oostburg, and we don't get enough of Dean Vander Plas in the central part of the state and certainly in the Madison area. But I hope that people grab on to what you're doing now. Get on Dean's social media. If you need somebody to come in and talk about leadership and coaching and being a positive experience and role model, Dean Vander Plas is a guy that can do that. And I know that firsthand, and I get probably a little more behind the scenes look, but Dean Vander Plas has been doing great things his whole life, and he's going to continue to do them. And if you need somebody to come and speak to your place of work, school district, business, whatever, Dean is the guy. So thanks for the kind words, and good luck to you, my friend. I hope we get an opportunity to meet here and have some pizza and and talk about the old days and talk about being grandpas.
The grandpa stories will be the best. I'd love to do that. And thank you for the opportunity today, Tim. Like I said, I love what you're doing, and you're making the world a better place. And that's the greatest gift you can give.
Well, we got a digital footprint, and you and I are a digital footprint for the rest of our lives, and our grandkids and great grandkids, and who knows, whatever after that, we'll be able to hear what we did and what we shared, and trying to leave it the world a better place. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we'll have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learned to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.